Welcome to the Business Addicts Podcast. Today I have Connie Jones with me, and Connie has been a business bestie over the last year or so, and I've really enjoyed watching, where you're going and growing, but also excited to have you on the podcast today so we can dig into some of the things that you've learned and be able to share with others. So if you don't mind starting out with kind of a little bit about your background and then really kind of as it applies to maybe family business or addiction, that would be super helpful.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, so and thank you for having me. Every time we spend time together, it is like the best. So we are just super aligned in the way that we think, and it's fun. So thanks for today. I was just to kind of get straight to it. I started out as a therapist, and 20 years as a therapist. And because that was the only way at the time, coaching wasn't, as popular of an industry. I knew that I wanted to help people. I knew that I had been a sports performance coach in the athletic world, and as a former college athlete. And my dad was a college football coach. So I have always been in the world of coaching, just in the athletic arena. And, but then when I realized, okay, it's people getting in their own way. They know what to do. It's them getting out of their own way and doing the mental, emotional, spiritual piece that I really want to dig into, that holistic view of people, that I feel like my giftings are to really help people dive in and get out of their own way and really optimize their potential. And I knew that there was, a piece missing. And so the only way I knew to do it at the time was to go back to school and get my master's and be a therapist. And so I thought I was doing therapy all these years, but actually I realized halfway in that no, I'm actually coaching people, that this is what this is. I do the deeper work, yes, and so do some therapy / coaching, but it's all mixed in there together. It's taking the whole person and optimizing them, and pulling out the gold. And so all that to say, over the last 12 or so years have built a group practice where we have therapists and coaches in my practice here in Peachtree City, Georgia. And I have a brick and mortar, and we do a little bit of everything from addiction work to trauma, PTSD to family. We're huge. We have a heart for the family and bringing wholeness and restoration to the family. We are depression, anxiety, everything you can imagine we do in counseling, but then life coaching. And then where my heart has been led, and I've felt like my calling has been over the last few years, actually last 10 years, has been in the coaching world with business owners. I immediately drew high achievers like myself. We always say we draw who we are. And so I've always just drawn in high achieving people who are mostly business owners. And I would, as a therapist, would take every aspect of their lives, their business, and we would optimize it and grow it and expand it and help them get out of their own way. Well, then it became real centered on coaching, and specifically service-minded, mission-based, or service-based, mission-driven, heart-centered business owners, specifically Christian business owners who really want to be who they are, who they were created to be, and work the way that God created us to God lead our businesses, and then to optimize and maximize so that we can live in and lead from the fulfillment, the freedom, the impact, the abundance, and the enjoyment that He created us for. And so that's what I do now, and absolutely love my work. It doesn't feel
that's
like work.
Amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. And I love, that you've gotten so clear on who you serve and just how, and I'd love to hear a little bit as we talk too, a little bit of where you see, some of the future. But before we dig into that, if we go back to the therapy piece and the coaching piece, for those that are sometimes wondering, do I need therapy? Do I need coaching? How do I figure that out? Are you able to kind of define that a little bit?
Yeah, that's a great question to ask. And actually, for people who want to do a little bit of that research, we have a Rise Counseling and Coaching. It's ARISE, arisecounselingandcoaching.com on our website. We have an explanation of that. It's a great explanation of that. I actually took some time to really work through that, and because we get that question a lot, and and people don't really know where they are, and sometimes people need a little bit of both. And the good news is I can do both. That it's fun. We don't leave any stone unturned. They may come to me for coaching. I don't necessarily take a therapy client right now. I don't take someone who needs therapy per se. I take someone who needs coaching, but maybe needs a little bit of therapy too, because we're going to need both. And it's fun to be able to do both. So, again, just, get to whatever we need to unlock the potential of the person. And, but to explain the difference, I see it like this. I see it as therapy is more supportive, and it's working backwards to understand what happened, to understand the woundings, the traumas, the things that the patterns of survival that we learned that are not working for us at this point, that are not allowing us to thrive. It's creating some understanding. It's healing those wounds. It's really, though, a lot of emotional support and some skills to be able to turn that around and get transformation. But where it crosses over with coaching is so forward moving. Coaching is about taking who I am today and closing the gap between who I am and who I really want to be, and taking those goals and being so oriented towards who do I want to show up as in the future, and how do I get there? How do I cross over and close that gap between who I am and what's not working for me versus who I want to be and what I want to create in my life and in my business. And it's so, that's such rewarding work for me. So I see it like this. I see it as therapy is more of unraveling a ball of yarn, and coaching is knitting a sweater.
That's so fun. I love that.
Yeah, well, it's a really good analogy.
Yes.
Honestly, I don't even know where I heard that from. It was years ago, and so I didn't make that up. I'm not that creative to be able to think of that, but whoever I heard it stuck with me, and it makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, no, it really does help create a visual for it.
Yeah.
So then when we think about, like, say, our season right now with this podcast is really digging into the family dynamic specifically for entrepreneurs. And I know one of the things that's been on my mind is, this idea that corporate is kind of, let's take the emotion out. I know people have described their jobs as soul sucking, and they still stay. Yeah. And yet the entrepreneurial pathway is like super emotional. It's like a roller coaster. And in family business, we have a lot of drama and sometimes addiction. And so, like, from the perspective I'm standing right now, which I don't have a lot of corporate experience, I can only go off of what I've heard others say. It's, this contradiction between something that is, let's take all the emotion out of it, to family business, which is like primarily emotion, and you might get a little bit of work done in the process.
Well, it's a system. Yeah. You're bringing this, and everything, whether we realize it or not, it's all a system. It's just a whole nother level of a system when it's a family business. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's ultimately just, I'd love to dig in and hear, some of what you've seen or your perspective on this.
Yeah, well, family business is, when you are, let me say this. The entrepreneur journey, like you said, brings up, I say it is the greatest and the hardest, most challenging personal and professional journey that we could ever be on. Yes. It brings up everything that entrepreneurship has brought up, everything in me that I've had to take a look at in order to be able to grow and expand my business, in order to become the leader that I need to be of the business. And it's brought up things that, even relationally, that I've had to look at, because I do have a team, and, and I have clients, and, boundaries. I mean, you can't run a business without dealing with relational issues. It's a whole nother level when you've got a family business, because you got family dynamics already there, and every family has some unhealthy dysfunctional dynamics, and you've got a lot of love, a lot of passion, a lot of pain, and um and when you put those two together, man, you talk about challenging, but you also talk about rewarding. If families are willing to do the work together, they can build something pretty amazing. But any business, we're going to have to see, whether we want to or not, it is not standalone. I wish I was one of those self-sufficient, independent, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to just get in my and that's my survival mechanism, is I get in my dinghy, and I tell my team this. I'm like, y'all, I realized I got in my dinghy again, and I took off, and I left y'all on the ship. I mean, I have to admit when I do that, but we can't do that as leaders of our business and not bring the rest of the system along. And we have to understand what's going on and be in healthy relationship with that system. And when it's family, it's a whole nother story, because we're doing life and we're doing business together. Yeah. And you just don't get any closer and more intimate than that. Yeah. And it pricks on your stuff more than anything, as you well know.
It's hard to even, it feels like words don't even really define it very well. Like, yes. Until we've been through it, it's sort of like you Absolutely. Can hear this, but until you're willing to deal with
no doubt.
Like, it's just, they're words.
Absolutely. No doubt. Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about, like, if companies have a business coach or a consultant, right? And they say, okay, that's great. It's like helping me with my numbers. It's helping me with, understanding my systems. But isn't there like an in this, where someone like yourself, what's the relationship side? What's the relationship with ourselves? Are we trusting ourselves? Are we able to move on and trusting others?
Well, that's the thing, is the biggest things that I see that are keeping us up. We can have systems, strategies in place. We can know all the things that we need to do. We can, we can know our numbers upside and down, and those are all important. The nuts and the bolts of business are so super important, but that's if we don't understand how to relationally be in healthy places with our partners and our team and our employees and our service for our contractors and our clients, then that keeps a lid on people's business more than anything. And it also creates a whole lot of stress and a whole lot of frustration in business that causes resistance to not only impact, but to our inner freedom, to our the enjoyment that we have in our business, and our revenue. So in every case, yes, we have got to have, I always say, I don't coach people's business. I coach the business owner. And we coach the business, but we are leading the business. We are the business, and we are leading that business. And so we have to become I call it whole self CEO. That's what I call it in my program. We have to become a whole person. We have to become a wholehearted, healthy, functional leader to be able to lead that business to where it needs to go. And if we're not, then we're stopping up the process and we're creating a lot of resistance. And again, keeping that lid on. And there's just no, that's tragic to me. I mean, you get me on a soapbox. That breaks my heart to see business owners focused on, or business coaches, consultants focused only on the strategy and start there. Like that's the strategy is one of the later on pieces for me with clients, because we don't even know. We've got to get to your heart. We've got to get to what all the beliefs that you have that are keeping you from really creating what you want in your business. We've got to get to the relational pieces. We've got to get to the boundary issues. We've got to get to the worthiness issues. We've got to get to, I mean, all the things that are happening um, that don't have anything to do with strategy or numbers that are keeping that business owner in stress and frustration and holding the business up from being able to grow the way that it wants to. And so, yeah, that it's tragic for me to see business coaches only focusing on that when it's those intrinsic things that are so important to take a look at.
Yeah. I'm thinking about a couple of business owners, that just feel like, they just need to create more systems and more processes instead of like, how do I connect with my employees? How do I,
Yes.
how do I understand where they're at or be able to talk to them? Like I feel this, but what is it that you say and help people through with this?
Yes. Well, people don't even know that they're not having the hard conversations. We don't even know what we're really tolerating from people because it's all we've ever known. We don't know what's really available to us and what is, I didn't even know what was normal. And I didn't know it is programmed out of us to trust ourselves.
And interesting. This feels like a subject all on its own.
Oh my gosh. We from early on were taught that we can't trust our own intuition and we can't trust our own inner wisdom and we can't trust our own body to tell us what we need and what we want. We can't trust our desires. We can't trust that our desires are good. And so we tolerate all kinds of things and settle for all kinds of things that we're not really okay with. And we don't realize that there's regret, that there's resentment, that there's, that we're shutting off, that we're disconnected, that there are silos in our team, that there are all kinds of things that we are creating because we don't even know ourselves and we're disconnected from the deep desires of our heart. One of the biggest things that I had to overcome as a business owner, and one of the things that I work with my business owners over more than anything, other than really trusting our intuition and trusting our inner wisdom, is and trusting our desires.
Yeah,
because we question ourselves. But the other biggest thing is feeling safe in our body. Like to really even to pay attention to the signs that our body has given us, the clenching when something doesn't feel okay, the thing when I am like, yeah, that doesn't feel good to me, but I just overlook it or settle for it or just tolerate it. And we are ignoring the cues and the signs every single day that are going on. And so we're building a business that is not even ours, really. And we feel imprisoned by that. And it's so sad for me to watch that happen. And then you get with people that you love, but you've got all kinds of other stuff going on with other dynamics with, especially in families. And it exacerbates really quickly.
You're bringing up a couple things. So one of the things that I've started to talk about that, I started to use in the family business that I was in, and it was sort of like we need two green lights, like when I feel intuitively like this is the right thing, but the other person that I'm in business with, someone that like the other partner in the business doesn't have that same green light, then something needs to shift. It could be something inside of us. It could be our belief system. But either way, we need it to shift. Otherwise, we're going to end up hitting barrier after barrier if one of us just thinks this is the right thing at the right time. And then that's okay. That's a go. That's a green light. No, we need two green lights in order for it to be a go. And the other thing is that Kevin and I, as we've both learned to trust ourselves and our intuition, it has been incredibly beautiful. I mean, this process of selling our house and this move to Mexico, we are both using our intuition to be like, what feels right?
Yes.
And we don't judge the other person's feelings.
No.
We accept it and sort of lean in and ask ourselves, okay, what isn't right about it? Like what would make it right? Or do we need to think about a third option? And it has created this connection through adversity through challenges in a way that we didn't have before. Right. So
Absolutely.
it's just been incredible. And I think, you know, when we can all have more of an intuitive, you know, trusting that what we've been given as those voices and those feelings, and like you said, leaning into our body, but we're not trained on that.
That's right.
So
Not at all. Well,
how,
yeah, well, I always say contrast, anytime there's contrast and anytime there's conflict, we tend to run from that. We think
mm,
of that as bad. We think of that
mm-hmm,
as, ooh, this feels really uncomfortable. And so I'm just going to avoid this, or I'm going to aggress in this. I'm going to be
mm-hmm,
the aggressor in this, or I'm going to just avoid it altogether. And this is just really bad. And everything in us gets heightened because we
mm,
haven't, typically, most people have not had good experiences with conflict. But conflict and contrast are actually there to create clarity for both
oh yeah,
parties.
oh
And
yeah,
they're also, it's to create clarity and to create connection.
oh, I
It's to
love that.
bring two parties together to have a deeper understanding of each other, to learn each other better, to be able to come together and grow closer together. Yeah, what are all those C's? Contrast.
Mm,
What did I say? Contrast and conflict create more clarity, more connectedness, and more clearer communication, and and more togetherness. It is
mm-hmm,
just absolutely, it can be a beautiful thing, but we have to learn how to communicate
yeah,
and do conflict well. And when we don't, and that's, that could be in therapy, that can be in coaching. A business partnership is just like a marriage,
yeah, yep,
and it has to be treated like one.
I agree.
Otherwise, and the work has to be done on that business partnership. Otherwise, it will go to really negative, hard, challenging places really quickly. But we, and it's and the good news is like, we don't have to feel like there's something wrong with us. We don't have to feel like something's missing. We're not deficient. It doesn't mean we haven't got something figured all out. It just means that, it's like any skill. How did we learn to tie our shoe? How did we learn to brush our teeth? Well, somebody taught us and we did
Mm-hmm,
it over and over and over and over and over. And now it's second nature. Well, it's the same. And I just happen to have, gosh, I had really good experience in my family with conflict and communication, and then I had tons of training in it, and so I do it really well now, after lots of practice. But I see it so much that people don't, and there's such shame around it, and
mm,
there's such denial and avoidance of it, when really conflict can be fun. Conflict is about coming together. And but we need training. We
mm-hmm,
need coaching. We need professionals to come in the middle, and it doesn't have to be something wrong. We might need enrichment. Every marriage needs enrichment. What's wrong with making it better? We hire a personal trainer. We hire someone to manage our investments. Why would we not hire
mm-hmm,
a coach to help us with the most important, most intricate, intimate things in our business that are determining whether we are successful or we're not, or whether we are allowing ourselves, or able to enjoy running the business, or we're not, and able to foster those relationships to greater, more enriching places, or we're not. And it's just, I don't know how I would have ever run my business without a coach. I have one all the time on some level. Now, it may be, sometimes it's working on this aspect of the business. Sometimes it's somebody who can do a little bit of everything, which is kind of what, I'm more holistic, and I'm, in I do the inner work and the nuts and the bolts of the business and the strategy. But sometimes it's, right now I'm working with a somatic coach who's helping me, really dive into my body and be safe and expand and open and soften, and, learn how to, like, receive more. whatever the season is, we just have to be willing to take a look at what is what's the constraint in me that is causing me not to be able to go to that next level. What's keeping the lid on me? And
Mm,
I'm just that kind of person. I know you are too, that I'm going to find what that constraint is and I'm going to go after it.
yeah.
Um, because it doesn't have to stay there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
And
love
we don't
that.
have to be ashamed of it.
Love all of that. I love how you bring it
Yeah.
all out. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
and I don't know, maybe our listeners are too, but when you're working with clients, are you doing primarily one-on-one? Are you doing group? What is your favorite method?
Yeah, well, a little bit of both. I like both. I have a hybrid program that, well, actually, I've got two different programs. So one program I have that both of my programs are a year. They are, one of them is for specifically for holistic practitioners, therapists, and coaches who want to move beyond that six, or they're either getting up to the six figure or they want to move beyond that six figure and they want to lift the lid on their business. They want the freedom. They want to do the work they love. They want to love every minute of it. They want to not be overwhelmed, and they want to make the impact with the revenue that they know that they can. And so that program is a year long, and it is all group, but there is an option in that program to do some one-on-one if there's two, it's a group program, but option for one-on-one. My other program is a kingdom business. It's a God-led um, building your business on kingdom principles. And it is for business owners who are at the 350 and above mark. So 6 and 7 figure business owners who have teams, who are in the overwhelm, the overwork, they're overextended. They want to work on their business and not in their business, and or less in their business, more on their business, and they really want to build that legacy business, that mission driven business, and make that impact, but have the lifestyle that they want to. So freedom is the key there. And they have, that's a hybrid program. It has a component of, they get one-on-one with me and group group coaching and a mastermind. So it's kind of a little bit of everything, and a retreat in that program. So I love it. I am really about what feels right in the season, and what I feel, what I'm excited about, what I feel like my clients need most. And I just, again, use my intuition about
Mhm.
what feels right now. What do people really need most? And I just trust that. I'll still do some one-on-one. If somebody wants me one-on-one only, I will,
Mhm.
I'll do that if I feel, really led to, and know that they've got a situation where we really need to hone in on some things in their business and they just need that one-on-one work. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
very
a
cool.
little bit of all.
Well, it's fascinating
Yeah.
to me because when I was in family business, I didn't
Yeah.
know about coaching. I didn't know about the options that are out there. And part of it is,
Yeah.
it's been expanding, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
not something that was and yet, I mean, in a small town, some of the things that I've realized is, let's take, realtors. They have so much competition, but in a small town, they have to be able to do it all,
That's
from
right.
selling land to selling commercial property to selling, residential, because there aren't enough people that specialize in specific areas, or maybe they don't feel comfortable specializing in those areas.
Right.
So in a small town with a family business, we became the jack of all trades. I was the accountant, I was the financial advisor, I was the attorney, and then
Right.
occasionally for those last moments, or some really, really high level work, we would engage with, maybe a professional CPA or an attorney, but it was very rare, very minimal. It
Mm-hmm.
was not a huge part of the budget. And so then kind of expanding into, some of the networking that I've been doing over the last couple of years since leaving the family business, and realizing that I want to bring resources together for these families that,
Yeah.
don't have the time to go out and network, or don't feel like they even know where to start, how can I bring these resources to them? And so what you're offering and what you're doing is like a small portion of what we needed that we didn't know we needed. We didn't know who to ask for. We didn't know who to look for. And none of our friends were doing it, and they were entrepreneurial and they seemed fine, but we're defining fine by we're making money. The relationships we were having issues. We were struggling in a lot of ways, but we didn't know that it could be better. So it just really want to highlight, some of the resources that are out there through, work like what you're doing. And I'd also like to kind of dive into this idea that you and I have talked about a little bit of like, what is the future in the retreat space, and really for business owners and for people in general, I think I've realized, especially in this move, that our family has been consumers of things. And now we want to be creators. We want to be, if we are consuming, it's experiences that help us, increase our ability to create and expand, very expansive thinking. And so I'm curious, what is it that you would love for business owners to think about in that space?
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point a few minutes ago that, it's about not just surviving, not just getting by, and not just being profitable, but being wholehearted. I think I was listening to or reading an article the other day, and I cannot remember his name, but a Buddhist monk, I think it was, made a quote, and he said, "The cure for exhaustion is not rest. The cure for exhaustion is wholeheartedness." And it's like I was talking about a few minutes ago, people, when we're wholehearted, when we are wholehearted in our relationships, when we're healthy in our relationships, when we are whole as people, when we're whole as leaders in our business, and when we are able to, when we're free to be able, and we're not in the daily stress and the struggle, we're able to, like you said, make those decisions to say, what is most important to us? And how do I want to thrive, not just survive, not just get through the days, not just make it, even if it's profitable, but to really soar and thrive. And so that's so important that we, that we take a look at what's keeping us from being the best, from being our best, from it. It can really be good. It can be fun. Our business can look exactly like we want it to. It can feel easy and all the things. I just want people to understand that if we get out of the daily struggle and the stress, that we really is not serving us. It's keeping us safe. We think it's protecting us somehow, but it's familiar, it's comfortable, but it's not working for us. It's not serving us in any way. And if we'll get out of that and move into our growth and do the work, we really can expand into what we really want to create. And the sky's the limit. There's tons of possibility there. And so that's what I really want to challenge business owners to do, is to get yourself in a place where, you do have your energy, you do have space, you do have time, you take back your power, and you get clear and on what you really want and how you really want it. And then ask for the help that you need to be able to make it happen that way. And what part of it, tell me the second part of the part of your question I didn't answer there, because I got off on that. I got really passionate about that. So tell me what else you wanted me to answer there.
Yeah, the future in retreats and experiences for business owners.
Yes, mm-hmm. I knew there was a second part. Okay. Yes. And we have seen, when you get away, again, when you have again, it's not about vacation and then come right back into the grind and staying in that pattern. It's about getting away and really getting into your heart and having time with the people that you're doing business with. It's about having the time with yourself. It's about having the stillness and the quiet and the space and the freedom to have that openness to work on yourself and to work on your business and to work on your team, rather than reacting to the daily when you're in it. And it's just like marriages. I mean, marriage intensives, marriage retreats. Anytime you retreat and you step back from things and you intensively work on something, you're going to get major results. And so that's where that's you and I share that heart is, we want to, our practice, we want to be able, that's our future dream, is we want to create a sanctuary. We want to create a retreat space for leadership conferences, for leadership intensives, for team development, for team intensives, for business owners to come and have some time to themselves and work on their business and do the strategic planning and really get clear about what they want to create and heal those relationships and heal themselves, all the things in addition to marriages and families and and individuals doing the work. And we just feel like that's the next. We've got to get people away from the daily stress and the urgency and the reactivity, because until we do, we can't get the power of the transformation that could be there when we have that time in that space. So that's where I see the value. Greatly.
That's beautiful. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about what you're creating and everything that you've shared with us. Yeah.
Plus beauty and nature. When we get in a beautiful nature space, natural space, it's captivating. It captivates our heart, and that stimulates creativity. And it feels grounding, centering, safe. And when we're in we don't create when we're in a pressure cooker. Nobody can create in a pressure cooker. And so we need out, and have the time.
Super interesting, because one of my sons is working on being an author. He's writing his first book.
Very cool.
He takes a lot of time to just wander around outside. He has his I'm going to write one chapter a day. I'm going to edit a chapter a day. He has his structure that he's created for himself, but also he makes sure to give himself space and then permission to have that space when he doesn't, write what what his intention is. And as a family with this transition and move to Mexico, he's like, wherever you want to go. He's up for whatever adventure. That's because he knows amazing. He's just going to wander. But we were very intentional about the space that we're choosing to be in, because we know now the things that you're saying. We didn't know all of that before. Right. So we have 5 boys that are going to be staying in a really nice rental that in the past I would have been like, no way. I'd rather have the space for them to just, ruin things, destroy things. It was, in a way that's creative work, right? For them to be able to just dig in the dirt and play with sticks and all those types of things. And at the same time, I also realized that the space and the environment that we're in a new country needs to have the basics. We're used to having water. We're used to having hot water. We're used to having electricity. We're used to having air conditioning. And so if we go and put ourselves in a space where we're in this pressure cooker where we don't even know how to survive,
that's it.
Then our creativity is stifled. And so it was this really interesting process to go through. I'm like, where are we called to stay? Where are we called to be in this move? I'm like, are we vacationing? Are we retreating? Or are we living? Or is it all coming together as one?
All of it. Yes. And any of it. It's so awesome that you're so open. And, and when we are open, and we don't go in grasping at something or trying to control something, it's a whole different story what is available to us.
We're doing this because it feels right.
That's right.
For both of us, there are 2 green lights. Yes.
Mm-hmm. You're trusting it.
Yes.
You are so trusting it. Oh, that brings me back to another point I wanted to bring up a few minutes ago or a little while ago when we were talking about green lights. And I just wanted to say this: when 2 business owners don't have the same green light, that's okay too.
Right.
But that again is where we need to learn how to compromise and have good communication and have good healthy conflict resolution so that we can compromise and we can create what's a win-win for both. Doesn't this, thank God you both have green light. This is a big decision. So of course you're going to need green lights. So, but some of those times it doesn't necessarily have to have a green light for both.
Mhm.
And but we don't often give ourselves or know how. We don't have the skills to be able to have the conversation that we really need to have to make it a win-win for each other.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Well, thank you very much. As always, I've
Yeah.
enjoyed our time.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Thank you.
I'm
Thanks
so
for all the work that
excited.
you guys are
Yeah.
doing.
Excited to
Yeah.
see where you go next.
Yeah, well, thank you, and same for you. This is an exciting time for you guys, an exciting season. So I'm just pumped for y'all. It's so great. You're gonna love it. So, and thanks everybody for listening in, and just I just again encourage that it can be good, and you're the only thing that's stopping it from not, because you're not reaching out for the help that is available to you, and that can change it all.
Thank you for tuning in. And to stay in touch, email us at info@businessaddictspodcast.com.